Ah, shit. This episode of the BRG podcast has been brought to you by our patrons. Here at BRG, we'd like to thank those patrons who have subscribed and donated. It is because of generosity like yours that makes this show possible.
On this episode of the podcast, I talk about probably the biggest con ever pulled off in China. Kirrok joins us to give us news game releases and a game that he wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. And Ziploc Bob joins us to talk about Sony emulation back in the old days and the aftermath that ensued. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the BRG Pod something. Oh yeah, cast. How are you doing this fine evening? The BRG Podcast is this wonderful thing where we get together and talk about all of the gaming news for the past week, as well as some other off-topic type things for tech, for media, sometimes porn, other things.
A lot of porn, actually.
A lot of porn. Kirrok, you sound really different tonight. Oh wait, no, that asshole quit.
You guys keep taking turns quitting.
You know, I couldn't put up with myself any longer, and I quit. And it didn't solve any problems. Everywhere I went, I followed. So I figured I'd come back to the podcast. Then this jerk-off goes and takes off on me. Actually, Kirrok is actually enjoying himself with some fantastic friends and smoking meats, and that's just going to sound really horrible.
Yeah, it's like fantastic friends and smoking meats. Are you saying he might have a big old mouthful of sausage right this second?
Possibly, but if anything more, it's going to be virtual, because he actually took his VR system, completely tore it down, and took it to his friend's house to set up. So it's virtual smoking meats. No. Anyways, yeah, Kirrok is off tonight, so filling in for us is the wonderful and beloved ranty Ziploc Bob.
Hi.
So tonight, guys, we got a whole bunch of wonderful, interesting gaming news and other off-topic aspects about, everything from, the usual gaming stuff down to the wonderful straddle train that China was working on that apparently is not happening in a bad way. So we're going to go ahead and cover all of that. Of course, we're going to have Kirrok did actually do game releases for us, so we'll get that stuck in there. And then Bob brought to our attention a wonderful, interesting topic regarding emulation and some follies that followed. So we're going to also get into that. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright guys, getting into the speed bits. The first thing we're going to talk about is Fallout 4 under fire for repugnant ad. As the Wanderer sings files lost singer. The guy who created the song The Wanderer, which is a very popular classic 60s-ish song, doesn't like the fact that his song got coupled with a commercial for Fallout 4, which I find a little comical, just because this was a legitimate, like, they made the request, they got the permissions to use the song, but in the contract it did say that the artist can negotiate the price and also basically decline at any point in time if he doesn't like what comes out of it.
Yeah, and he had the right of first refusal.
Something like that. But basically what it boils down to is they bought the rights to do it, then he saw the commercial, and apparently this is repugnant to him somehow, which I don't get. I don't see anything about this commercial that's quote-unquote repugnant. So, whatevs. But the really comical thing about it is not only is he now asking them to remove the commercial, but he's suing them for $1 million for damages.
Okay.
It's like, if I'm going to sell or license my music to Playboy, I'm going to assume it's probably going to be in porn. Just saying.
Yeah.
Anyways.
That was odd.
Say the least.
But more news coming from our friends over at Rock Paper Shotgun, written by Alice O'Connor. PlayerUnknown's Battleground shows a new desert map and even teases bikes.
Bicycle bikes?
Bicycle bikes.
I want to ride my bicycle. Bicycle.
And this is where we're going to stop because even though we're tone deaf, we don't want to get sued by a certain
Nobody would
band.
ever want to claim that it was associated to their music.
Oh no, they'd be like, this is putting our music in a bad light.
We sue for $1 million.
But, there's some things that we consume from the shots because they're just shots. It doesn't actually show somebody riding the bicycle. It's just a bicycle in the game. That is a bicycle I can ride. This bicycle is faster than running, quite quiet. That it can have a bell that you can ring because why wouldn't you?
I'm coming!
Ding, 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 ding. Because it's PlayerUnknown. It's PUBG. People act stupid in PUBG.
And people love PUBG very much. So you're going to get a new map, and you're going to have a new mode of transportation.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to officially have it coming out until the end of the year. It got pushed back, unfortunately. People over at Destructoid happened to note that they decided to push back the actually official release date of the game. Originally, it was promised in October. However, Brendan Green explains on his blog post, and he says, I quote, "I've come to realize that restricting the window to a specific month could hinder us from delivering a fully featured game and or lead to a disappointment with the community if the launch deadline is not met." So basically what he's saying is we don't want to hit that hard date. So they're simply going to say we'll try to get it out by before the end of the fourth quarter. So, yay. So sorry if you're a fan of the game. It's going to be delayed. But of course, then again, you still have access to it because it's early access, so whatevs. Other things you might have a hard time getting access to is the Super Nintendo emulator that is going to be coming out. Supposedly this has pretty much been sold out even before it started selling. So all the pre-orders that have been given out have been pre-ordered, and people have started slapping those up on eBay with the, hey, I have a pre-order and I'll sell it to you, basically. eBay does not take very kindly to this. It has decided this is not proper etiquette for selling things. So basically they're starting to pull all these down, and at the time of this Paul person on Crave reporting it, they said they can only find one instance of it on eBay, which is pretty impressive to say the least. So basically, long story short, if you're a scalper,
Yeah. I feel you. You know what else I feel? Haptic feedback.
Tactical suits?
Yes. This is coming from Engadget. B Haptics. I'm guessing that's how you pronounce it because it's like a little B and haptics as one word. They have a tac suit that is a VR haptic feedback thing. It has 87 feedback points. They're little servos and motors that shake, rattle, and roll you. And cost about $550 US.
Ouch.
My wallet is crying, and I haven't even gotten to what it actually does yet.
Well, I mean, it's a haptic vest. I'm assuming it gives you tactical feedback of being shot, where you're shot.
Yeah, but not all of them were created equal because, they started out with just something that would just jiggle your gut, and that's about it.
Okay.
But, those are some of the early ones from, the late 90s, I remember. But this actually has 20 on the front of the vest, 20 in the back of the vest, and 20 in each sleeve.
So now you can feel the bullets ripping through your body.
Yes. Or, when you're grabbed by a zombie, you're like, get off. So that should be fun.
That's going to get dangerous real quick. A little bit of an update to Paradox in their little bit of an oops in their repricing of games to match the power of the coin in whatever country they're at. As a means of not apologizing but making amends, they are offering some options for people. So if you bought any Paradox products that were affected by this price hike between May 17th and current, you can opt in for a free game or 2 DLC as compensation for the thing. There is a lengthy forum post on their site that explains the process and how to get your free game or free DLC. I haven't read it personally, but I've already seen some people responding saying, yeah, it's a whole lot of hoops to jump through, which doesn't exactly shock me.
I've read it. It makes War and Peace look like light reading. Like, Jesus
there
Christ.
You go. So
I want to know what law school the person who wrote that went to, because
lawyer speak.
Wow.
My favorite.
Well, it's the perfect marriage of lawyer speak and tech speak.
Oh,
it's
goody.
unreadable.
God. In other news, Nintendo Everything is reporting that modders have started cracking open the Switches, of course, to see what's inside them and see what they can do with them. And come to find out that there is a dedicated emulation ability within the Switch. They call it Flog. So at this point in time, we know the Switch can do it. We also know that NES games will eventually be offered on the Switch via the online service, where you can download like a compilation of a lot of classic games. So I guess the comforting factor is if you can get a hold of a Switch, then don't cry too much about missing out on the SNES pre-orders that have been pulled off of eBay.
Right? And hey, they're still making the Switch, so yay.
Slowly. Remember, it's all Apple's fault.
How about we get a little bit more refined and talk about artsy stuff and artsy things?
Yay for artsy things!
The Chicago Reader reported that Chicago's first art gallery that's dedicated to video games is coming in August. The Video Game Art Gallery is a local nonprofit that has existed in like we will sell you prints form through a digital means, and they're upgrading to brick and mortar.
Okay.
They announced earlier this week that on August 11th they will have a brick and mortar location at Bloomingdale Arts Building alongside the 606 highway. This will be the first of its kind in Chicago, joining a select few in the ranks of art galleries in North America that are dedicated to the still relatively new form of media when it comes to like art galleries.
This is great. I mean,
So
games
this is
games
great
are
news.
art. Game
Yeah.
is another medium of creativity, so this is excellent.
Yeah.
Look, a couple points here. First of all, I'm now a little bit sad that I didn't add another art related thing to our rundown, because there's a company that just put out a wonderful book of game art, which is all of the screenshots of all of the horrible Japanese to English translations in the early 80 games. Like, all your bases art belong to us.
Spot
You
that
can now
English.
Yes, you can now get a book of all of that. So that I think this is great they're doing this. I do need to point out in this picture here that shows them on the front, they've got the cute little arrow signs on it. Seriously, guys, total fucking fail that you don't have those arrows set up as a up, up, down, down, left, right, BA.
Like that's just to throw out to the Konami code.
Seriously, how do you not have that on your? You have little arrows on there, and you don't. Oh, come on.
But
Anyways,
and for the last speedy bit, and this actually surprised me. Makes me go like, "Wow, it's only been this long."
Only.
Yeah, well, for media, the entire creation of media, it isn't that long. Atari and Nintendo celebrating 40 years of making video games, consoles, or video game related products this year. Atari was founded in 1972. However, the company debuted the Atari 2600, known as the Atari CVS or VCS, in September of 1977.
Good Lord, that I was a year and a half old when they released that, and I played the crap out of that when I was a little bit older.
And Nintendo entered the video game market with two Pong clones.
Yep.
Called the Color TV Game 6 and Color TV Game 15 in 1977 as well. And, Microsoft, we've only had an Xbox for 16 years. We've only had a PlayStation something for 23.
This actually kind of highlights the last thing we just talked about, how this is a very young creative medium. Yeah. So I think that's pretty.
The fact
incredible.
That we're getting art galleries, well, we're finally getting to that point.
And it comes full circle because we have games now influencing other traditional mediums in terms of Netflix, for example, has renewed a second season of the Castlevania show, which, by the way, I binged in a couple of hours last night because I only had 4 episodes for the first season. Excellent, by the way. Absolutely thumbs up, must watch. If you like anime and you have an appreciation for classic games,
Speaking
definitely
of translation errors.
What?
Anime. It's I grew up on anime, so video games and translation errors of anime.
Yeah, so this is great, and the take on the characters is beautiful. So definitely go watch the first season and be ready for the next one whenever it happens to come out.
So, Engadget is reporting, speaking of anime, Assassin's Creed is becoming an anime series.
Well, it's as a movie, live action. People will work as an animated TV series.
See, this is where I'm going to disagree. The reason why Assassin's Creed works as a video game is because you're the person doing the cool looking shit.
Yeah.
Because the story's convoluted.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't play the game. I have no like or dislike for this game, so it's 6.5 dozen me. But nonetheless, they are coming out with it, and
the producer Adish Shankar announced on Facebook that the next project is an Assassin's Creed anime series.
And he was the one that was on the
Netflix, Castlevania Netflix.
So. That's Castlevania. Maybe this will be good.
He was approached by Ubisoft, so Ubisoft came to him. So at least they're picking the right type of person. They said create an original story.
Maybe. We'll find out. I mean,
now they do have comics. They had a live action movie, so they can probably take some stuff from that as well as the plethora of lore from all the games. And make something work with it. Or they could just make it its own thing and not care about continuity and have fun.
I was going to say, bottom line, the game has a history. It has many iterations. There's a very fleshed out world. So there's potential for a good playground for a show. We'll see. Mm-hmm. We'll see. It could be good. Could be hell. I don't know. I've had really good luck with Netflix animated series so far. Netflix original stuff. So we'll see. One last thing, guys, just as a revisit for what we talked about, the crazy straddle bus that China was creating. Turns out may have been a scam. So if you're really kind of excited about this kind of shit, I wouldn't get too excited. Long story short, the police of Beijing announced that on July 2nd, they have begun investigating the company behind the project for alleged illegal fundraising. Authorities are now holding 30 people associated with the fundraising platform, which accepted 1.3 billion dollars.
U.S. dollars, right? U.S. dollars. We're not talking like
Chinese currency. They didn't say specifically USD, but nevertheless, 1.3 billion from investors. So long story short, they basically said they did all the fundraising for it, and now this particular prototype has been sitting collecting dust and rusting since then. It's been abandoned for multiple months now, never has moved, never touched. So they may have just, like, got bait and run. Whoops!
So they pulled a Kickstarter. Wow, I'm impressed.
Yes! Exactly! Like, the biggest Kickstarter fail ever, right, kind of thing. Yes. So, anyways, guys, that is our speed bits.
Wow.
Okay, guys.
Welcome back to another game releases this week with me, Kirrok. Stick around. We're going to have some good ones for you. And your first game on July 11th is Final Fantasy XII, The Zodiac Age. This is released on PS4 and it is a role-playing game. It is basically a remaster of the original Final Fantasy XII from back in 2006. This version includes revamped HD graphics, reconstructed battle system, as well as job systems, which is pretty cool. Back in the day, it got a 92 out of 100 on Metacritic. That's pretty impressive, actually. And if you love going back down memory lane, that nostalgic feeling, plus you love this game, then this is the game you gotta try. All right, your next game is on July 11th, and it is Black the Fall. This is coming out for PC, PS4, and Xbox One. It is an atmospheric puzzle game, so that's what the developer classifies it as. So it's a puzzle game. You have to solve puzzles as you go through, and it's almost like a side-scroller platformer. It reminded me a lot of Inside when I first laid eyes on it, only it's a lot more colorful. There's a little bit more polish, a little bit more depth to it, which is pretty neat. You play as a machinist, an old guy who's oppressed under a communist regime, and one day you decide, I've had enough, I'm going to break free, or I'm going to escape. And you use things like ingenuity, reflexes, and deception to make your escape. It's pretty interesting. Also on July 11th, you have Defenders of Ekron. It is a PC and PS4 title, categorized as an adventure shoot-'em-up, also known as a shump. Shoot-'em-up, abbreviated, shump. The game is a top-down shooter with sharp graphics, set what looks like almost like it's a space scene. If you like games where you have to fight your way through a constant barrage of bullets and enemies, this is pretty much the type of game that you would enjoy. It's something I equate to the old style games of 1942 and 1943. Same thing, aircraft going by, shooting, and trying to avoid all the bullets incoming. On July 11th, we have Minecraft Story Mode Season 2, Episode 1, Hero in Residence. Wow, that was a mouthful. It's on PC, PS4, and Xbox One, and it is an adventure point-and-click made by Telltale, which is the kind of game they're famous for. This is a charming choose-your-own-adventure episodic series, a story that takes place in the world of Minecraft or in the universe of Minecraft. I have not played the game myself, but I have watched people play it. In fact, Ruark, you better be playing this one because I really want to see what happens next. And guys, the last game for this week is on July 12th. It's called The End Is Nigh. It's coming out for PC. It's a sprawling adventure platformer. So this game is created by the same developer that brought you Super Meat Boy. It is a ruthless, deadly platformer, and you play as a little black blob hopping around, and there are all kinds of mechanisms and machines and pitfalls that are out there just to kill your ass. In fact, this game has over 600 different levels and tons of obstacles. It is the kind of game that would drive me apeshit, so you ain't seen Kirrok play this one. And that's it, guys. Those are our game releases for the week. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. I had a lot of fun making it, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ziploc Bob, and today we're talking about video game emulators and
no
Sony.
counting. You're not going to give me a 3-2. Okay.
No, just fucking get in there. Today we're talking about video game emulators and Sony, and times they were taken to, court, and it didn't work out for Sony's case. Which is weird because a lot of people think, oh, emulators, they're illegal, right?
Whoa. Back up here. 1 minute. What's this topic about?
The time that video game emulators were taken to court by Sony, and Sony lost.
That's why I just want to hear it again because it felt good.
Yeah, right?
I don't have much.
This was back in the PS1 days, too. Like when they were the new kid on the block. They're still pretty powerful, though. But, because it's Sony.
It's Sony.
So. But for those of you that are, What's an emulator? Simple. It's a piece of software that acts like a piece of hardware.
You might even go so far as to say it emulates the hardware.
It's kind of like what's a refrigerator? It refrigerates your food. Oh.
Anyways.
But like emulators have existed for a long time. Like for the NES, Super Nintendo, so on and so forth.
Oh, we've talked about it plenty of times. There are
Yeah.
many out there for everything you can think of.
And even back when they started, everybody was like, your common person was like, "Are these even legal?" And the common answer is like, because there was no legal precedent. Now we're talking about emulators, not ROMs. We're not talking about the software and having illegal copies of the software. We're talking about people who make emulators through legal reverse engineering and fair use. And there's a reason we're saying it in those words. But in 1990s...
I'm sorry, but one thing I want to be clear on here, because when it comes to the aspect of what's considered fair legal use, if you create, the Ziploc game station,
Yeah.
and I go through and I physically reverse engineer it, so I understand how it works.
Yeah.
And I create
Say
an emulator.
if you get your hands on some documentation to where you understand how the coprocessor works, the GPU, and all that stuff, but you go, okay, I'm going to write this in C code because he wrote it in his own coding language so it can work
Zip
on a
code.
computer. Yeah. I worked it up. I put it on zip code.
That's totally legit. As long as I'm recreating the function, but not using Bob's code.
Yes.
That's totally legitimate.
Yes, and again, we're not lawyers, but this is what can be inferred.
We do
from
play one on TV. Oh no, wait, we don't even do that.
Right. Hopefully you can play us on your TV. That'd be great. But
Hey now.
there were two companies. You had Bleem and Connectix. Connectix made the virtual game station. Bleem made Bleem. And they were both PlayStation emulators. Now, there were emulators before these two.
Okay.
What made these special is one, they worked better than a lot of emulators. Because you had ones like PSE Emu Pro and Psyche, spelled PSYKE.
Okay.
They suffered from compatibility issues, and Sony did not consider them a threat at all. They were just like, they sucked as an emulator. It's kind of like the first PS2 emulators. They sucked and they eventually got better, sort of thing. So these came out for commercial release. Sony took both of them to court, and surprisingly, they lost both times. However, in the end, litigation was too costly and it killed both products. And in one of them, it actually killed the company.
Ouch.
So let's start with Connectix and the Virtual Game Station.
Okay.
Connectix was formed in 1998 and was infamous among Mac users for the Connectix Virtual PC software that let you run Windows on a Mac. So they're not exactly unfamiliar with emulation. In 1998, programmer Aaron Giles joined the company, and he was a good fit for his time working on an arcade emulator by the name of MAME and Mac ports of LucasArts games.
Okay.
Connectix started working on a PlayStation emulator on the behest of Giles because there was a limited game market for Mac systems, and they were typically a Mac software company. They found documentation of the operations of the PlayStation coprocessor, and they actually found a copy of the PlayStation BIOS. So they made a prototype that would use that BIOS within a few weeks, and it could load up to the PlayStation logo, and it would ask for a game. So when they went to Sony, they were asking for licensing rights of the BIOS so they wouldn't have to reverse engineer it. Sony was like, can it play any game? But they're like, yeah, it'll play any game. After they showed that it could play Crash Bandicoot. So a Sony exec because that was the popular game at the time.
Yep.
Grabbed
Yeah.
a random game. Luckily, they grabbed Ridge Racer, which was a game they tested and it worked. Sony said no.
Shock of shocks.
So Connectix then eliminated the need for the BIOS by reverse engineering it. The software was actually announced at Macworld Expo in 1999 by Steve Jobs.
Okay.
The company was careful not to step on Sony's toes by region locking the software like it was, like if it was a US version, it would be region locked to the US games, so on and so forth. And it could only play the games if you had the physical copy of the disc in your CD drive. Period.
So they weren't trying to cheat the system in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, however, modders got around that stuff with patches, but
Well,
that's what modders.
Shock of shocks.
But you know, with them being software developers, they didn't want to steal money from other software developers.
Now,
you know?
just for clarification's sake, we're talking about something that's emulating the PlayStation.
Yeah.
Are they running this as a virtual service on a PC or Mac and throwing the disc in that, or are they actually physically making some hardware hodgepodge they're running this onto?
It's all the programs on the disc. You install it, done.
And you run it off your PC.
And you run it off the Mac, and it eventually would have came out for the PC.
Okay.
Or I believe it did. I'll get to that.
So it's basically eliminating the need for the PlayStation hardware itself.
Yeah. It's just emulator. It just gets rid of the hardware need. It does not get need of the software.
But you still abide by all the rules.
Yeah. And the big thing about Sony is at the time they were $10 of the game went to Sony of any PlayStation game for licensing rights.
Yep.
At the time.
This is worth pointing out here, guys, just so you understand, especially in the early days of these consoles. On the surface, you hear about this. Some company A is trying to emulate a PlayStation, so you don't need to buy a PlayStation to play the PlayStation games. And on the surface, you might think, well, of course Sony's gonna be pissed about it because now they can't sell their consoles. But at the time, and this is very common in early times, even common now, selling the consoles cost Sony money. They were losing dollars on every console sold. The reason for it, as Bob just said, is they weren't making money off the consoles. They were getting the consoles out there as a means for you to play the games, and then they were collecting royalties for all the games that went out on that console.
Now, there is one company I know of that doesn't do loss on consoles, but they still do licensing rights, but they're not allowed to sell consoles as a loss, and that's Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
That is a mandate they've had for the longest time and will not change. What they just do is use quote-unquote subpar hardware. Basically, they don't go for the bleeding edge. They want a very Nintendo nostalgia look.
Exactly.
And so they will age well, is their mentality.
The point is the reason this is why this company was looking at it and going to Sony and making their presence known to Sony, because
they wanted to do this above board.
Yeah, to them they thought they were doing Sony a favor, so to speak.
It's like, now you can sell more copies of the game than there are PlayStations out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, they're helping everybody in their mind. So, it cost $50 USD. $50, you could have a copy of this, and they were selling at Macworld, and it sold 3,000 copies at the Macworld Expo.
Damn.
Which is one every 30 seconds. This was a huge thing. 3 weeks later, Sony sued.
Yeah. Shock of
for 9
shocks.
claims, including patent infringement, copyright infringement, and trademark dilution. Of course, the company Connectix fought the case and started working on a Windows version of the emulator. It's like, no, we got something here. We're going to make money. Was their entire thing.
Yep.
So Sony filed for a temporary restraining order to stop all sales. They were originally denied. After some questioning was done by the court system of the dev team about how did they reverse engineer the BIOS, where they got the paperwork for the coprocessor, 2 months later, the injunction was granted for a temporary halt of sales of the emulator, and it was immediately like pulled from store shelves. And this is where things finally get interesting.
Uh-oh.
After the emulator's already pulled and everything's done, on February 10th, 2000, Judge William Canby Jr. deemed the actions Connectics took to reverse engineer were necessary to access unprotected elements of the PlayStation. Connectics did not copy of any Sony's code because they actually rewrote it in C code versus the proprietary coding language they were using. Thus making the reverse engineering action protected by fair use.
So basically, they can if they want to, so yeah.
The former decision of tarnishment of Sony's brand was reversed due to Sony's inability to prove that the virtual game station's existence brought a negative connotation with the PlayStation.
How can it even be it?
Well, here's how brand tarnishment works, right? Say you make the Bottle Rocket Gaming logo. All right, and a logo has a logo and everything. Like you make a Bottle Rocket Gaming soda, and I'll make a soda that's called the Bottle Rocket Soda. And the logos look really similar, and you can easily tell that I'm aping your style, and it's a really shitty product.
No, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
But anyways.
But, so 7 of the 9 claims were dismissed by the judge who originally validated the first injunction. His name is kind of lost in all this in my notes. Sony hoped that to take the last 2 claims of unfair competition and violation of trade secrets to the Supreme Court. However, the Supreme Court refused to even hear the case. They're just like, we ain't got time for this. No.
Ain't nobody got time for this.
So this is when Sony said, screw it, and bought the software from the Connectics and discontinued the products, had Connectics delete all information from their servers, everything.
Damn.
And this was actually great for Connectics because the PS2 was about to come out. And PlayStation, and that software sales was slowing down.
Gotcha, okay.
So
it was going to be
the program got killed, but it got killed at the perfect time.
Okay.
To where it's like, we've made our money.
So I made money off selling this. Probably burned through most of that, if not all of it, trying to fight Sony. But then made it all back again when Sony bought them, hopefully.
Oh, yeah. And now, here's the interesting part. The PS3 has PS1 emulation. Through the PlayStation Store, and you can put in a PlayStation 1 disc in a PS3 and it'll play.
Yeah.
Can't do that with a PS4. So one of the creators, Aaron Giles, likes to say, hey, the 6 months developing thing was fun, and I like to think that even though the entire court stuff left a bad taste in my mouth, that I kind of helped make the PlayStation 3 backwards compatible without even knowing it, because they could have used some of it. That hasn't been proven one way or the other, but it's a nice little note to point out. It's like,
okay.
Hey, it's like this company could be the reason why, because it's done through emulation. That's what backwards compatibility is at times.
Gotcha.
So, moving on to Bleem. This one was funnier. Because this was happening, like, some of it happened directly after, and some of it was happening during, if it makes sense. Because...
So Bleem was another PlayStation emulator, right?
That was being sold commercially. Yes.
Okay. The PlayStation 1, to be clear, right?
Yes. The original PlayStation.
And they overlapped the other one by some margin.
Yes. And especially with the court dates and stuff.
Okay.
This one, unfortunately, does not end as happily, but they do get their punches in and it's kind of hilarious. In 1998, screenshots circulated of a new PlayStation emulator in closed beta. This one was unique in the fact that it not only played PlayStation games, it actually enhanced them graphically because they claimed that they could use the graphic accelerator in your new PCs at the time. Because
not just copying, but improving.
Yeah. It was known as Bleem, and the joke was that it stood for the best little emulator ever made.
A little conceited, but sure.
Because nobody knows what it actually stands for. Like, that's just what the...
Okay.
Like, they didn't call it Bleem to have that.
So what's their story? I mean, what made them stand out from the other guys in terms of their history and their end?
Well, first, everybody was like, oh, there's no way it could do all these things, but it actually did have hardware acceleration capabilities. And in an interview with CEO and president of Bleem, they told IGN, quote, "We don't expect any problems from Sony. We've taken every possible step to ensure the security of not only our software, but also have worked to protect the rights of Sony and PlayStation developers in general. So I don't know how we could protect ourselves any more than we have."
So
he was
Sony...
immediately proven wrong, and they were taken to court.
I was going to say, so Sony never bothered them. Oh, wait. So now you said that this didn't end as happily as the other one. So what's the end result here?
Okay. Sony tipped it unseat Bleem were not limited to just the courts because they got sued a lot because it was just lawsuit after lawsuit. But at a software expo in the same May, the May of the same year they were getting sued, Sony and Bleem staffers got into a shouting match because Bleem was using footage from Gran Turismo to demonstrate the performance as an emulator. Sony ended up prevailing, and Bleem removed the monitors to avoid being ousted from the event entirely.
Seriously?
Yeah. Bleem finally did win in court. The court ruled the company wasn't violating any rights or unfairly competing with them. One court even went so far as to issue a protective order to, and this is out of the court documents, to protect David from Goliath. Because Sony was just bullying these people. They were being half as nice as they were being Connectics. Because they were messing with them outside of court.
Wow.
Sony's last-ditch effort to claim that Bleem's, as far as on a legal side, was to claim Bleem's use of screenshots of PlayStation games on its packaging were copyright infringement, which after a bit of battling in court was considered fair use because they were using it as comparative advertising, which is protected under fair use. After years of legal battles, David won in the courts. However, financially, Goliath already bled them dry, and in November of 2001, Bleem shut its doors for good and auctioned off all the property on eBay, including a vast library of games that it used to engineer the software in the first place.
Nice.
And this is the most messed up part of this. Bleem it actually did make it to the Dreamcast, and was going to have support of 400 games, but due to them closing, they were only able to finish it for 3 games. Metal Gear Solid, Gran Turismo 2, and Tekken 3. Nice. This was due in part that Sony told retailers that it will not stock them with games or software if they sell Bleemcast products. And Babbage's actually asked to return in the tune of about 3,000 copies of Bleemcast.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is straight up bullying.
Yeah. I said, Sony got dirty on this one.
God, that kills me. Anyway, you know what? I mean, obviously it's all history. This is not current news, guys. Know that, but it is something that is fun and fascinating to understand and these are the kind of things we love to bring up in this podcast because it is something that, if you understand the history, you can understand the future. There's a great quote I heard some time ago that says, history does not always repeat itself, but it oftentimes rhymes. And it's very true. I've seen, things in the future where there are situations where there is that David and Goliath element. There are the big heavy hitters. They're trying everything in their power to squash these other guys. And this is the other thing too is the mentality. Again, way back in the days of the PlayStation 1, the late 90s, this was still very, very young. You have to understand that at that time, we're talking about the big boys.
Yeah, and this reminds me so much of like the YouTube landscape, here, especially when it comes to video games today, when people are shouting fair use, fair use, fair use, or just reviewers in general. It's like, if you review and critique, you can use fair use as a defense if you can afford a lawyer and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But
we just talked about last week how people have been using like DMCA, for example, as a weapon instead of a shield.
Oh, the Alex Marr case.
Yeah, and this is one of those things of, again,
she that entire case disgusts me.
Yeah,
it really does.
There's follow-up on it that I may bring up next week, just if things have actually cooled down finally. But anyways, the point is this repeats constantly, and it's always good to know history about things. All right, if you are a game enthusiast, whether you're into consoles or not, if you like to play games, every single one of these actions has played some measurable role in where things exist nowadays. Had these emulation services been quote unquote more successful, for example, would we still even have a console market? I'd be curious, honestly, because maybe in a parallel universe these things took off. Companies like Sony, like Sega, realized, frick, we don't have to lose money on this hardware. We'll just let people emulate it on their computers, which are now getting more powerful. Graphics cards are starting to come into the market. We've gone from having these things called Voodoo brand to this upstart called NVIDIA that started kicking ass and taking names. And they just started building their specialized platform for their games. And they use this emulation software. So it's really fascinating. And knowing these kind of details is really, really cool.
Like if the emulator market actually would have took off and went a little different, Steam might have not been a thing. Because,
there you go.
Like the how you can broadcast games from PlayStation Now
here's
your PC.
Yeah.
Could have.
Here's the thing, though, and I will go so far as to, I agree with you, but it's to look at more succinctly, this was an easy way to get a captive market that you control the output of games, which is kind of what Steam does. So basically, had these emulators taken off, there could have been a potential that you could have had this controlled, curated market of select games much earlier in our timeline than now. Because Steam's, in comparison, is much, much younger than this all happening. There was no concept of it. But now, to a lot of people's bane, you've got Origin. You've got
Uplay.
Thank you.
GOG Galaxy.
Yeah. So you have all these isolated. Hey, if you want to get this game on digital download, you have to go here or you have to go there, and it's very interesting because these kind of emulated things could have played a factor in that, because it could start out saying, well, you have to buy the disc, because back then you really had to have a game on disc because it just wasn't going to work otherwise. But you could have this very captive market. So, anyways, the point is, I find things like this fascinating, and I appreciate, Bob, you bringing this one up for us, because it is a really interesting little look into the history of games, and I'd love to have you back on later and find some other interesting little history tidbits and bites that we can actually kind of dive into more detail, because this is just one of the many myriads of gaming history that, quite frankly, was shocking in a lot of ways. That changed course.
This was one of those
gameplay.
where as soon as I found it, I was like, hey, you got somebody for this weekend? No? Cool. I'm here.
Let's do this. Anyways, guys, I'd love to get your comments and thoughts on this because it is something that's very interesting. We do want to do more kind of these type of topics as well as current event stuff. So definitely let us know what you think. If you have any thoughts or opinions on things like this, comment down below and let us know. And we're gonna go ahead and move on to moving out. So we'll be right back. All right, guys, we are coming to the end of yet another week of the wonders of the BRG podcast. So we do appreciate you joining us. And again, really, really want to say thank you to Bob for taking some time to look into the history of the story about Sony emulation and what the outcomes were, and just, again, get a little more familiar with it. I love the death. So thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. What's going on with you, man?
Well, right now I am trying to get it to where the Bottle Rocket Gaming Twitch account is more active and being used as a soundboard for other, Twitch streamers. People like myself, Dazaz, Rad Hazard 1, Thomas Reddington. We're all going to be, and hopefully more as it goes on, we'll be streaming throughout the week, every week.
Well,
And
the channel certainly has got a lot more active. That's the other thing I want to bring up with you guys, just so you guys know. Bob has been helping us out a lot more. He's become kind of our media guy, trying to put a lot more interest and activity in focusing on our streaming element. We have our YouTube channel, which had just like a podcast going. There's other stuff going up by now, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit here. But our our Twitch channel was kind of dead. It would host other channels, which is great. That's one of the things we do. But it hasn't really done much itself. But now, thanks to Bob, there is a lot more stuff starting to rev up on it.
This week is when we're actually starting, all of us taking turns. And we are having the meeting actually tomorrow to figure out who goes when, so we don't have any people kicking each other off, because you know how it is. Have to have some sort of organization.
I think you need to, like, at the meeting, actually have like a bundle of straws and just hold them up to the camera so anybody reaches for them. Oh, I want that one.
The fact that I'm in charge, we all drew that short stick.
Anyways,
the worst drawing of lots since Poseidon, Zeus, and Hades.
So you yourself also have a Twitch channel, and I see you actually do a lot of stuff on your Twitch channel.
Yeah, I'm slowly going through all 3 Witcher games in order.
Very cool.
I recently completed Shadows of Mordor, which that was interesting, and I swear if I ever run into Push Crimp again, I'm going to kill him again.
Fair enough. And what's the best way for people to keep up with you?
With my Twitter, I usually pop out a tweet about anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes before I go live. Okay. And as soon as I know when I'm going to go live that day, I shoot out a tweet that day. It's like, hey, 7 p.m., 8 p.m., all Eastern Standard Time, of course.
So if you kids want to keep up on the latest with Bob, make sure you get on the Twitters. Again, Bob, I do appreciate it, and things have really been getting revved up and very active, which I appreciate. To that end, guys, just so you know, obviously my channel tends to kind of go up and down in terms of activity. I technically have content that I should be editing and getting done, but this summer is pretty much packed. If I could show you my calendar, I would. Literally every single day of my life is highly scheduled, whether it's doing renovation on the house, doing camping trips with the kids, doing whatever. I've managed to squeeze in a little bit of Ball Rocket Gaming stuff as well, but my channels aren't really going to be all that terribly active, so I do apologize. I really should put something on the channel and let people know. Divert your attention, please, to the Ball Rocket Gaming channels, and you're probably going to be better off. Now, I do have a gaming channel. I also do have a motovlog channel. Again, if you'd like to see stuff there. But I'll be honest with you. If you want to see motovlog stuff, Yeah, I'll get stuff up when I can, and I do have a lot of stuff I need to go through. I just don't have the time for it. But
And
there's a lot of
keep
good motovlog out there.
keep an eye on the BRG Twitch channel just because he actually streamed on it last week and did very well.
Exactly. Thank you, by the way. No, but seriously, I've been doing a lot more work with the BRG group. I've been doing streams on BRG or as the BRG Twitch because we're doing currently doing this month. We're doing a Freeview event now. Freeview is a month-long event that we do for Bottle Rocket. Basically, we pick a free-to-play game, and then we play it for a full month. And it's meant to be something that anybody can pick up the game, play it however they want to play it individually. But then we have a couple of coordinated group events where people can get together and play in team play. Because a lot of these games nowadays, they're meant to be multiplayer group type things. So we want to be able to get that element in there. And then at the end of the month, we'll do a roundtable review. So anybody who has participated in the Freeview event in some manner or another, whether you're just playing solo or joining for the group events, as long as you've played the game, you can join us for the roundtable. We'll actually go through step by step, talking about every element of the game, and then give you a verdict whether it's worth playing or not. So all of that's going on. Anytime we do any of the official Freeview live streams or impromptu ones, we're doing them through the Bottle Rocket Gaming Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Bottle Rocket Gaming, so you can catch that there. And I also am transferring that video, archiving it over to the Bottle Rocket Gaming YouTube channel, so you can pick up all the stuff there. Just so you guys know, for the Freeview event, the next Freeview event coming up for group event is going to be on the 16th. And you'll be able to join us at 10 a.m. Pacific to do some more Crossout, which is a post-apocalyptic vehicle shooter game. Really cool game. You actually craft your vehicles and you go out to do battles. You blow parts off people. It's incredibly fun. I have a great time with it. We are going to be doing giveaways. And this is important because if you join us for the event, we'll be doing giveaways for people who are playing with us, as well as for people who are watching the event through our Twitch stream. We'll actually be doing giveaways for you as well. So to keep up with that, again, please head on over to the Bottle Rocket Gaming. Hi there, Zero. Head over to the Bottle Rocket Gaming Twitch account. Make sure you follow us so you can keep up and know when we're going live. You can watch along with us. And that way, you always know what's going on. I also do, of course, encourage you to head over to bottlerocketgaming.com and check us out. Just so you guys know, we are a new media collective of people. We are gaming centric. However, the people we have are everything from YouTubers and Twitch streamers to mod pack designers, music creators, visual creators. It's across the board. We work together and we have a lot of fun doing it. Also, if you want to support us, of course, giving us some love, following us on Twitch, hitting the subscribe button on YouTube. This is great. Shouting out for us and saying, hey guys, come check this out is always a huge help. We enjoy that. And of course, if you want to take the monetary avenue, you can go ahead and donate to us on Patreon. Just a simple $1 a day or $1 a month really helps us out in a lot of ways. We'll give you a hearty thank you. We have other higher tiers as well, all the way up to including a t-shirt. So please, 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 if you have the gumption and the motivation and the monetary ability, please help us out if you can. We certainly do love you for it. Anyways, guys, thank you so much again for all your time. We do appreciate it, and we will catch you next week when we talk about God only knows what, but Kirrok will be back, so he'll tell us. All right, guys.
Yay.
Have a good night. We'll see you later.
Bye.